Hey there! Welcome to the What's Your Thing podcast, where we're all about great conversations with interesting people.
That's right. I'm Brennan.
And I'm Caitlin.
There's something awesome about every person, a thing that makes them truly unique.
We want to know what it is about everyone, so we're asking,
What's your thing?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of the What's Your Thing podcast. I am one half your host. My name is Brennan, and we got...
I'm Caitlin. Thank you for coming back. Episode 30.
Yes, we have the 30th installment of the What's Your Thing pod. We're very, very excited to share a cool topic with you. We have Des Connors Warmington here. She is our resident expert on improv and part owner of Crush Improv. That's been going for, I guess we're approaching 16 years. Is that correct? But we'll jump right into it. Des, what's your thing?
My thing, and it's been my thing for over 25 years actually, is improv in all of its various forms. So I've been performing with Crush for the last 16 years, but I actually got started in high school. So it has been a part of my life for longer than my husband, my job, anything else I've done. I have had a relationship with improv far longer.
Did you go to the Canadian Improv Games?
Sure did. Silver national medalist. Thanks for asking.
Nice.
So I was very lucky to be in one of the high schools that competed in the Canadian Improv Games. And I can't talk about it without mentioning the fact that my older brother, Al, was actually the president of the Canadian Improv Games for quite a few years, national director and president. So I was quite close to that organization. I started as an improviser through high school that way. And then I ended up working for the Ottawa branch of the Canadian Improv Games. I was an adjudicator and a judge for them. I worked at Improv Camp, which is a national improv camp that ran out of Alberta. I did that for a few years. And then little brief hiatus for university, just try to get my life together. Didn't really take, but it was worth a shot. And then came right back to improv in my early 20s. And I've been doing it ever since.
So that leads us into the next question. I think everybody, I have to say it because everybody who's really familiar with improv, we probably all know whose line is anyway, right? I've gone to see them live, and I feel like that attracts a lot of people to the art. But what led you specifically to finding your niche in improv?
So high school is weird and hard. So for me, it was a way to be competitive with having no ability in sports. It was a way to hang out with boys, and it was a way to hang out with older kids. I grew up, I'm sort of a bit of a perfect storm. I had a really smart and witty father and a mother who was bold, who just sort of had that, 50-year-old lady, like, I can do anything, I don't care approach. So I had the personality type for it, but it really was just a thing to do at lunchtime for a long time, and then got good at it, was on a good high school team. So we were able to compete in the Ottawa Games, make to the Nationals. And so if anybody's ever played a sport, it helps to be on a team that wins, man. It really gives you a better taste of it. But really it started as like a 13-year-old girl's search for a way to feel included and be on a team.
So that being said, you found it in high school, you found this group, you found this team. Was there a challenge finding other improv groups, or was it kind of pretty well established in Ottawa?
It was. So, I mean, the history of improv in Ottawa is long and storied. Like there's about 45 years of different troupes all throughout the history of, like, I guess the last 50 years. But when I was coming out of it, I actually didn't participate in any university improv team. So Carleton University, Ottawa University, both had really established teams, but I didn't go in that way. So starting something kind of all by ourselves was hard because at the time there were sort of comedy clubs that would have their in-house troops, stuff like that. But if you just wanted to start from the ground up, it was hard and it's expensive. So improv, it's sort of like any other sport where, like, you need a space to practice. And when you're just putting something off the ground and you're all in your early 20s, nobody has any cash. So there was a group of people that I either knew in high school or were friends of friends that we knew we wanted to start this movement, start a company together. And so we just sort of squatted in Ottawa U buildings that we knew where the doors were unlocked. My brother was a theater student at the time, and he was like, "Oh, like this building at this time, we can get office space." So we just not break in; those buildings are all unlocked, but just try a bunch of doors until one was unlocked, and then we'd set up until security or the janitor would come and be like, "What are you kids doing here?"
What year was this?
This was 2003, probably, when we were squatting places, 2003 to 2004.
I was going to say,
And
that's like pre kind of social media. So you really had to get the message
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Were you passing out flyers? Were you just like word of mouth?
We
talking to your
word of
friends?
mouth, but also postering, baby. There was a time when the only way you could get the word on the street was to literally get the word on the street. So we'd do like little art house shows, cabaret shows, pool, whatever cut of the door we'd get, which was a pittance. It still is. It's hard to
Yeah.
make money doing improv. And then we'd print out 100 posters, and then we'd just poster the spot. We would set up recurring shows so that you could say something like, you know, what was it? Tuesday make 'em ups at the Cajun Attic. And then you set your posters up everywhere.
Sweet.
And then Facebook was slowly starting to get off the ground. So like if you go, whenever you know how Facebook will be like, remember when you said this however many years ago?
Yeah.
All I was talking about was improv shows back then, because that's all I was using it for. And then, you know, you make other friends in the community. We did a few fringe runs. So the Fringe Festival is a great way to launch anything artistic in the theater arts, because you get like 7-8 straight days to just do it. And then you get reviews, which make it into the newspaper. So but it does take years before you can really get your legs underneath you.
I heard good things about the Fringe Festival.
Oh yeah. It's spectacular.
Yeah. Can we just have you just go through the tenets of what makes a really good improv show, and like what, if anyone was interested, what like a skill set they'd need to be successful?
The skill, you know, everybody I think who has given themselves a barrier, like a resistance to trying it, thinks you do need to have any one specific skill. And the only skill I think you need to have is just sort of like a willingness to fail.
I feel like that's the hardest thing in the world, though. Like I look at stand-up comedians, I look at improv, because like it's one thing to try and be funny in front of a crowd, and like that's what a lot of people I think feel like improv is, but to try and do like a serious set or something like that, that's got to be that's terrifying to me.
I love that. That's what so that's sort of the evolution of my practice is now I kind of like the longer. I mean, I will always love gamey games, like the Whose Line Is It Anyway style of gaming. That's called short form improv, and it's punchline driven, and it's fast, and it's funny.
It's a good way to suck people in, probably.
Oh my God.
Like there's got to be an art to being serious. You're live, you're thinking on the spot. Like,
yeah. And you have to, I mean, there's a lot to be said about the chemistry that you have with the people you're in scenes with, because it's the longer the sort of format you're in, there's got to be trust, because you're really building something together. In short form, it's like, stupid hat, joke about farts, like even if something doesn't land, you're on to the next thing. But if you're building a reality with a person and you have this relationship, like there really has to be an element of trust. But in the end, the only thing that you really need to be able to do is not panic. And saying that, I know it's hard, but you learn increasingly how to not panic, because failure in improv doesn't mean anything. Nobody knows that you screwed up, really. And as long as you just pivot and you don't get afraid, everybody's heard it a million times, the yes and of, you know, the situation's always evolving, but we're going to face those changes positively and build on them instead of like letting it feel like a block. So that's the only skill I think you truly need. You don't have to be funny. You have to be a good listener, and you have to build things or like create based on what's already been established. Like you don't necessarily have to show up to an improv scene being like, I'm in a castle and you're a goblin and I've got a wand. You just have to listen to what the other person's doing and think like, where is this going between the two of us? So you don't have to be funny. You don't have to be quick. You just have to be willing to try.
So for anybody who's looking to get into this, where do they kind of go if they think like, I'd like to give it a shot? Is it do you have to have like a prerequisite? Is it kind of like going to an audition? Do you need like agents and stuff like that, or can you sign up for groups?
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah, you can absolutely sign up for groups. So I would recommend the Improv Embassy. It's run by a bunch of friends of mine, and they do 101 classes. So it's a pay to perform thing, but in the end, you get to do like an actual live performance. And the teachers are fantastic, and they just really build from the ground up. And then if you decide that you want to pursue it, there's other classes. Once you follow them too, they have like guest improvisers coming in from all across the country. If you want to work on improvising a musical, if you want to improvise books, if you want to improvise based on a theater genre, all these companies exist now. There's a company that's actually performing at this Fringe that does an improvised like 90s sitcom. Like there's just so many different creative sort of formats within which you can improvise now that once you've got sort of the muscle down and you know how to pick and roll within a scene, you could try it in so many different formats. So there's a lot out there.
I checked out the website, crushimprov.com. That's you guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of events going on.
Well, we actually, right now, we aren't super actively cranking stuff out. We've got guys doing different fringe shows, but we're hoping to sort of do another relaunch in the fall. We had a great head of steam going for us into our 10th anniversary year, and we put on a big 10th anniversary show, which was the show we actually won the Canadian Comedy Award for. And then March of 2020 happened.
Yeah.
And all that beautiful momentum ground to a halt. So we're still trying to get a regular show back up and running, because at the time we had like regular shows that we were doing monthly or twice a month, and then pandemic.
Oh yeah, I was checking out the events that you were involved in. That's like all over Ottawa. You guys,
some in Montreal.
Yeah, that's a great website for resources. It looks like you're offering a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
With respect to that, I wanted to jump back into, for people getting into it, when I asked you earlier, it's like you were passing out flyers, you're posting on Ottawa U, like in campus or whatever, and you're trying to get people to come in that way. How have you seen this change? Like in Ottawa, you said it's a great improv city. Has it just exploded in the last several years since you started, or has it kind of always been there?
I would
bigger
say
now than it's ever been.
It's bigger. I mean, it was sort of steadily climbing. Everything slowed down. It's steadily climbing again. So it is, I'd say, nearly back to its full force. There are a lot more sort of smaller groups that have been working for a while. It seemed like there was 3 or 4 big main companies that were running, and festivals and stuff would go on, and you see the same faces all the time. But now there's so many different fractures, and I think a lot of that can be given to the Improv Embassy of doing all of these beginner classes, and then within those classes, people meet each other whose styles align, who have really good chemistry, and then they start something off. So there's a lot more, I think, now than there was before. I think this year's Fringe, there's at least 3 or 4 improvised shows, whereas when we were getting started, there'd be 1 improvised show. So yeah, it's just a matter of finding what kind of thing you want to watch. Because like you said, there's short form improv, which is jokey. There's long form improv, which is more interested in telling a story. And then there's a bunch of different style-based stuff too. So if you're interested in watching or doing, you just have to figure out what feels right to you.
Would it be a great resource then to check out things like the Fringe Festival, follow the website, Crush Improv, to find out where we can go and watch and where people can participate?
Sure.
Yeah.
For participation, I'd recommend the Improv Embassy, because they host regular classes, and they have like a season stuff, so you could plan down the road. Us within Crush, we sort of, when we do teach, it's more like intensives, like it would be a 1 or 2 class thing, because we don't really. We all have full-time jobs, so we don't really have a lot of the resources.
I was going to say, yeah, it's like it's quite a passion.
It is.
You guys are finding the time, and it's
wonderful.
It's neat that how you said at the beginning, how everybody just like gets along, and it's like a team, it's like a family.
Yes.
It's got to make it so.
That's really important to us too. We set up shop about 16 years ago, and we're not all the same people that we were. People have moved, and other people have left and dipped in and dipped out. But we've never held auditions. It was always sort of based on vibes, because we had regular shows, so we'd have people guest. And if sort of the unanimous feeling was like, oh, this one, we like this one, then we just recruit them. So we've been at as few as 3 and as many as I think 6, depending on where you check our history.
So what would surprise people the most about improv in Ottawa?
In Ottawa, I'd say just the thing that would surprise people most about improv in general is how it's a life skill. It's something that I think has improved my just general outlook on everything. I've had, I don't know, it's, again, like I said, it makes your panic reflex sort of deaden. And when you're thrown an obstacle, instead of being blinded by it, you're like, how do I work with this? How do I pivot around this or use this as a strength? But also, you're always looking for the game. There's an expression like you got to find the game of the scene, which is something improvisers do. If you're in a scene and it reveals itself that this is about like raising the stakes or having a meeting energies, like there's all these different things you can do within a scene to make them interesting. You can do that in your life. I'm always playing games.
So since your brother is really into improv, do you like find yourself doing that at Christmas dinner?
Oh, we're the worst. I'm worse than he is. He is more a Cancer, I guess, if I could explain an energy. He's more of a quiet man, but I'm always, everything's a game. I can't wait in a line without being like, let's play name 5 things, or let's play this, or let's do that. When I go to karaoke, that's a game. Everything I'm doing, there's a game within it. But yeah, my brother and I have improvised together an awful lot. So even if we're just like, we were traveling together and riding on a train, and for 4 straight days, we were going back to like singing the same made up improvised song about things on a train. It's a great way. It's a great place to put your brain when you're waiting for things.
Well, it's kind of like everyone else on the train is probably just staring at their phone. So it's actually you're using your brain, right? Like
that's it. Yeah.
Maybe
nice.
maybe I'm on the wrong path. I got to get into something like that.
It's fun. It's just, yeah, it's fun. And again, like, I don't know, maybe the more I get older, the less I fear judgment and the less I fear looking silly in front of people. But
that in itself, you were talking about life skills, like that in itself, like that confidence is so key in everything that anyone does. And I'm telling you right now, like maybe if you stood me in front of a crowd and like you try and be funny, what's the worst that can happen? But doing those serious scenes has got to be intimidating. It's got to be tough because, like, I don't know. I'm even trying right now. I don't know what to say. Like and then it's like you have an audience, you're trying to captivate them. It's like it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. When you're doing the real emotional stuff, I think you disassociate just enough because you want to really live within the truth of the scene that you're in. So whoever your partner is, they're saying things to you and you're making it real by living in it. So it's easy enough to distance yourself from the audience and you're not necessarily hoping for laughs. An improv audience always wants to laugh. So that's something that you keep in mind, because I've done like competitive shows where they don't know what we're about to do. One of my favorite scene partners is Christine Shadid, and we'll do 2-handers sometimes. It's just the 2 of us. And we have been performing together for so long. Our chemistry we can be quiet and build real relationships. And they're funny, but they're not like farty, silly, over the top funny. And sometimes we'll go up to an audience that's been warmed up by 3 acts before us who are doing like fighting trolls and really over the top stuff. And then we'll come and have like a quiet scene in a subway about a couple that's been together for 30 years and want to buy a dog. It's very grounded and natural and still funny. And anyway, you just, after a while, you're like, yeah, the audience will figure it out.
Well, now we get to the fun part. That was absolutely awesome. Thank you for sharing. Like, and we want to post, if you have anything that we can share with our audience that we can say, like, hey, check this out. You said the Fringe Festival.
I've got a bunch of buddies doing cool stuff in the Fringe Festival. Yeah, crushimprov.com. We're hoping to have a season launch for September.
Well, now that we know about your thing, this is where we like to ask people, what's something interesting about you that you could share that isn't to do with your improv thing?
You know what I started doing? I started doing it last year, and it has been filling my life with joy. Is I am coaching an amateur sports team. I'm coaching house league softball. And, many of us have kids, and many of those kids need to run around in the summertime. And I highly recommend it. I've been having so much fun. The stakes couldn't be lower. We started last year, first year back after the pandemic, coaching softball. Nobody knew how to swing a bat. These kids made it to their first game, and they didn't know what an out was. So it really was like, oh shoot, okay. Like once you hit the ball, you have to run to the base. You can't come back and hit the ball again. Like these kids were. Anyway, it's hilarious. These kids are so sweet. I really recommend, if you have children or if you have any aptitude towards the sport, every local house league sports league needs coaches. They're always begging for coaches. So
yeah,
grown-ups everywhere.
I was at my son's little I think it's OS whatever soccer last night, and I have to hand it to Dad that was on the sidelines. He was doing a great job just trying to keep these little like 5- and 6-year-olds to stay behind the line, and he was great. So I could tell like he's probably going home to have a pint after this, because that guy he was a saint.
For sure. And you get to go home, you're outside in the summertime. Like really, I'm having so much more fun than I thought I was. Like last year we did it because it was like, we need coaches or the league doesn't happen. Well, fine. I played in high school. Let's go. And then my husband and I were like, we had so much fun. We're definitely going to do it again. So I would recommend giving it a shot, right?
Awesome.
Who cares? It's the improv attitude. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Who cares?
Well, Des, thank you so much for being our guest on episode 30. It's pretty cool to think like Ottawa has a pretty good improv scene. So if you
for sure.
want to participate, we recommend. We will post all of your social medias and anything, your website, or whatever we can. Thank you so much for coming on our 30th episode of the 30th installment of the What's Your Thing podcast.
Congratulations, you guys. 30 episodes. That's a big deal.
That's pretty fun.
Thank you.
We're having fun doing it. And as always, if you have anyone you'd like to recommend, or if anybody is listening to this and you do have something interesting that you'd like to share with us, just shout out to us, tell us your thing, and we'll have you on, because we want to know what's your thing.
Bye.
So make sure to check us out, whatsyourthingpod.com. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube, follow us on TikTok. Check us out. We're going to have a blast. What's your thing?
What's your pain?